Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. How are you guys doing today? Today I'm here. I want to talk more about the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. I want to talk and focus more in on the idea that this was possibly a burglary, robbery, home invasion. I want to focus in more on the property again and the backpack. I have some ideas. Um, I want to talk about on the back end, when I'm talking about finances, I'm talking about what was the financial condition of the people that are relatively close to Nancy Guthrie. I feel like there may be something else operating, and um, when I'm thinking about who could have committed this crime, um, I want to talk about some financial things that I haven't talked about before relating to Nancy Guthrie and possibly her abductors. Okay, so let's get started. So, um, my mind, it doesn't turn off. And when I woke up earlier this morning, I woke up with the disappearance on my mind, and my mind was telling me that the idea of the burglary or robbery that led to the kidnapping, um, it may not be the way that things have been presented. I'm going to lay a foundation today for my idea that there is something else going on. I do not believe that this was a burglary or a home invasion or kidnapping, and any of that, kind of grouped together. I feel like when I when I'm processing in my mind the known, if we want to call them facts, or the information that's been provided through the media, when I woke up, it really came to me that maybe there is something else going on. And I wrote myself a note. The idea that hit me in my note says, time of death confused. What that means is maybe the, the person or people that are involved, are trying to hide, conceal, or alter the time of death with this idea that this was a kidnapping slash burglary slash home invasion slash possible robbery. Um, if you can't determine the time of death, that means that you will really be guessing on the timeline. And I'm going to go into greater detail of why I think my brain is thinking this way. If you can't place the time of death, if you have the inability to determine in an accurate way the time of death, it's very hard to place a timeline together. If a person is discovered, or when they're discovered, you always want to estimate the time of death, and you go about that in a lot of different ways. You can rely on other people's accounting of seeing them, talking to them, being with them, texting them, um, the interactions. You can rely on cameras. Uh, you can really get that time of death in a margin of time from the body temperature, if there was food eaten, is how far did it process. Sometimes you can help when the body is decaying. You can look at the maggot activity and kind of see they have a whole lifespan and everything, and that helps to determine time of death. It's a lot of ways. And what I was thinking, maybe this was never a kidnapping, but taking the person out of the home was a way to conceal, to thwart the ability to, if this is a deceased person now, and we don't know this, but my mind um, is kind of going down this path. It's been thinking this for a while. Um, you know, you can try to alter or manipulate the time of death by taking the person out. They have the inability to find them, to estimate the time of death, which causes the timeline to really be inaccurate, or you don't have the ability to really focus and hone in on that time of death. That is what my brain actually woke up to. Another big idea for the conversation tonight is going to be relating to, I do not believe that this was a kidnapping also, because there was no acts for a ransom. I didn't realize this because I didn't want to, dive deep into this case. I really don't want to talk about this case because it's still like an ongoing investigation that's actively unfolding. So some ideas I'm extrapolating, I'm, assessing and processing, coming to some of these ideas. But I do not think this was a kidnapping, but more so, I don't think from the onset this was a kidnapping. I don't think from the information known that the intentions of the abductor or abductors was to ever proceed as if this was a kidnapping for ransom. And the reason I think this is because the the ransoms that were disclosed in the media, they appear to be unfounded, not legitimate, and they also never provided a proof of life. If you're going to orchestrate a kidnapping for ransom, you know you're going to be asked for that proof of life because you want to be paid. Your goal is to be paid to collect this money. But in turn, the family wants to know that their loved one is safe, that they're alive, and you do that by providing a proof of life. I don't think this was ever, the intention was ever for this to be um, unfolding as a kidnapping. I think maybe um, the media thought this could possibly be a kidnapping. I'm not sure how this idea formed, but this kidnapping idea formed at some point, and it could be also um, the idea that, okay, um, the daughter is a celebrity, and maybe they're going to want something in return to try to get Nancy Guthrie back. This person is rich, they're going to try to extort her, etc. I'm not sure how the kidnapping idea was kind of formulated, but I do not believe that whoever committed this act ever intended for it to be in the media as a kidnapping. I think the intentions were to preserve their freedom by not being caught, not being exposed, because I am strongly believing that Nancy Guthrie is not alive anymore. She's no longer with us. And that when this happened, possibly at her residence. Taking her out of the residence would make it impossible to know her status, and it also delayed the ability for a time of death issue if she's deceased. Okay, I'm trying to say it as respectfully as I can because I'm trying to process my thoughts and kind of explain why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking. So let's talk a little bit about the idea that this was a home invasion style robbery. Now, I think with a home invasion style robbery, the assailant is going to have a target. They're going to be looking for some high end valuables. Specifically, they're going to know what they want. They possibly may know where it's at. They're going to try to get in and out very quickly because, of course, no one wants to ever get caught, right? Now, if this was a burglary, to me, a burglary is more a crime of opportunity in a sense. The person is probably thinking the homeowners are not at home. So it's a good time where you can kind of get in, break in the home, and then get out as fast as you can. And you don't have any target or focus. So you're really just in there taking whatever you find, whatever you want. And a lot of the burglaries that happen that are committed, they're not at night. A lot of burglaries are in the daytime because the likelihood of someone being at home in the daytime, if they're working, it's a lot easier because that house is going to be empty. Okay. Now, there's also a more uh, a more dangerous type of break-in, like a cat burglar style break-in, where the person is breaking into the home during kind of the middle of the night where people are more likely to be at home. So there's a greater risk, right? It's more dangerous. The homeowners are likely to be at home, maybe active, and you might encounter them if you break in. But the cat burglar, they're very astute. They know how to kind of maneuver. They're quiet. They're a professional type. And they're willing to take on that risk of breaking in when the homeowner is possibly home. So, my question or my thought is, what, if anything, was stolen from Nancy Guthrie's home? Was there any valuables? Was there a safe? Was there jewelry? Was there high-end items? Maybe expensive purses or clothing, shoes. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of some things that maybe a burglar would want to take. And possibly could get money through pawning it, furs, expensive jewelry, things like that, electronics, TVs, higher end items, higher value items, because I would want to know, have law enforcement check pawn shops? Has anything been recovered? Has anything been itemized and reported as missing or stolen, or unable to locate? Okay. So my my concern is in the Nancy Guthrie disappearance, there appears to be a lot of time that the assailants were potentially inside of her home. It seems like they really took their time. 20, 30, 40 minutes. I'm not quite sure. We don't know exactly the time. We know the time that the camera was taken off, and we know the time that the pacemaker was no longer connected to um, the the device. And that's a lot of time for somebody to be in a property. It's almost as if the person or people were comfortable, they were not afraid, not like in a normal burglary where you're trying to get in and you're trying to get out, you're trying to move fast, you're trying to go after certain items as quickly as you can so you don't get caught, right? Um, it makes me wonder, you know, was there some type of ulterior motive in this case than just stealing items from Nancy Guthrie's home with the amount of time that the person or people were inside the property? It's just an extraordinary amount of time. Um, if this was a burglary slash home invasion slash robbery, it's just a lot of time spent inside of the house, which makes me feel like, was there something else going on? Was there some other focus other than this burglary robbery aspect? Um, I have more thoughts about it, but I'm just thinking of the order of things, and yeah. So we have that out. Okay. Um, what I found, what I found a lot of things interesting. I want to kind of turn my attention to the backpack a little bit, and also two things that I saw in the video from the porch that the FBI was able to recover. One, the backpack, it appeared to be almost like completely full, which to me, it was not consistent with a robbery, burglary type style, because typically, if you're going to go and take items, you would not take a backpack full. Let me show you a picture. Well, I'm going to show you the video first, and then I will leave the picture up, okay? So this video is provided by the FBI. It has no sound. This is, I'm sure they're going to call this person a person of interest on Nancy Guthrie's porch. And we really want to just hone in on that backpack. So I'm going to play it right now. No sound, okay? You see the backpack? Okay, so I'm going to switch over to the still picture that I captured of just the backpack. And this is why, you know, the kidnapping, um, as a result of the burglary slash robbery home invasion, it doesn't make sense to me, because why is this person going in with a full backpack? Typically, you're going in to take items that you find and you bring them out. Whereas in this case, when we're looking at the video, the person has a backpack that is full. The other thing that threw me off, um, so this is the person again. This is just a still picture. And this is what I picked up immediately. There's a holster with a pow pow, GUN, in front here. And I thought to myself, if you've ever been to like a concealed weapons training class, or if you've ever been to the gun range, or just If you're in law enforcement, the military, this is an odd placement of the the holster, right? I've never seen anybody put a holster in front of their crouch area. Okay, it's just the odd placement, and I wanted to zone in so you could see it. So here it is. Okay, I felt like that was a real odd placement. That was just my observation. It was just an odd placement. It was almost if the person was performative in wanting to show and demonstrate that they had a weapon. Because I've never seen anything like that. So I thought that was odd. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the clothing. Now, gonna enlarge it a little bit. Okay. The clothing to me, um, and I was just thinking about it a little bit because I was thrown off. The person is covered from head to toe, no skin exposed except the eyes, and you know, the the idea of the clothing to me is like something you would see like in a movie. The person wears a mask, they have the gloves, everything, and it's like I was thrown off by if you're trying to conceal yourself, you're trying to maneuver around the house, hide. Why would you have these like reflective type of straps on the backpack? That kind of threw me off because somebody's going to be able to see that reflection. And the whole goal, if you're trying to do a burglary, a robbery, a home invasion, is to be able to conceal yourself, to blend in, to be able to hide. And you have these reflective straps on the backpack. I just thought it was like really, really, really strange. You have the mask, you have the gloves, and now you have these reflective straps. It's really odd. I don't know. It's off-putting. Um, Something else I want to go over, and I'm going to go back to the front of the house again. So this is the front of Nancy Guthrie's house. This is the walk up. This is the front door, and I have a good picture of the door, the security door, how strong it is, how it's made with the metal and the steel, the bars. You're not getting in this front door, okay? I still don't know how um, the assailants made entry to the house, but definitely not through the front door. As you can see, you can really see the bars. You can see that there's two locks, a deadbolt, and another lock that's keyed. And then I want to go back to the further picture. If you're, I'm estimating maybe 20, 30 feet away, you can see the camera here. You can see the camera. But as you get a little bit closer, you can see the camera right there. So something that I didn't understand, when you watch the video, it's as if the person is unaware that the camera's there and now they're trying to conceal it. And it's like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense because if you're 20 feet away, you can see that there's a camera there. You're going to anticipate that. Um, it's another thing that makes me feel like the person walking onto the porch is almost like staged. The goofy mask, the gloves, the pow pow in the front in the holster. It's like you're trying to make it appear that this is a threat, that this is a kidnapping, that we've taken this person with force. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. If you can see this camera, from this distance, typically people have exterior cameras, and some people even have interior cameras. This will be something very visible to anybody in the daytime, just going for a jog, going for a walk. It's just odd that it was as if he didn't know the camera was there, and then he's like trying to conceal it. It just didn't, I don't know, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. The clothing and the reflection on the back, the strap of the backpack, it's just, I don't know, it was weird. But I know from a nice fair distance, you can see that front door camera. Okay. So, something I want to talk about, and I have a closer up picture of the door too right here. So this is the camera, but I want to focus in on the door itself. As I said, this is a deadbolt lock and this is a key lock. And again, you're not getting into this house through this front door, right? So when I'm thinking about things and I'm thinking about the front porch, I really didn't understand why the person even went on the front porch unless, okay, unless this front door was left unlocked or the perpetrator or perpetrators had reason to believe or was informed that possibly a key may have been left under that front porch mat or in the in front of the front of the house. There's some flower pots. Was there a key left or was the front door unlocked? Because when I'm thinking about all of this, my mind goes back to the blood droplets, and I have a picture. So let me pull up the blood droplets. I have a picture of those right here. You can see them right here. We know, and this was the front porch mat I was thinking about. Like, is there a key under there? Was there a key known to be under there or stored somewhere in the front of the house? So if something was to happen, someone could quickly, come inside the house using the key, or emergency services could come in the house using the key. That's what my mind was thinking about. Um, but when I'm thinking about this front porch, I see Nancy Guthrie was injured and there was blood droplets on the front porch. And this makes me believe that Nancy Guthrie, because we already know in the earlier pictures there was no blood droplets, right? Before the incident, and now we have the blood droplets after the incident. So we know that Nancy Guthrie was injured and she possibly exited her home through this front door. Okay, let's go back to the front door picture. She exited the home through this front door. Now, where I'm going with this is when I'm processing these thoughts, I want you to stay with me for a minute, okay, here. We just saw that the front door had the security door, which we know none of this was disturbed, okay? We have the pictures after the incident. We have the deadbolt and we have a keyed lock. There is another door, okay? Behind, there's an interior door in front of this security door that could possibly have a lock also, okay? So when I'm thinking about all of this and knowing that Nancy Guthrie went through physically the front door to exit her home injured, because we see the blood droplets, my question is, who unlocked the front door or doors? They would have had to either be left unlocked or the key or keys would have had to be obtained, found, and unlocked. Now, my question is, there's other exits at this house, right? We know this. From doing a little reviewing and everything, I found out that, and I'm going to say allegedly because I don't know for sure, I found out that there was allegedly a rear door and there was allegedly another door that leads to the garage. And then, of course, we know that Nancy Guthrie used her garage to enter and exit out of her house, right? So I have pictures. So let's continue on. This is a picture going into Nancy Guthrie's garage, okay? So an easy thing would be to exit the house through the garage because you don't have to find all of the keys for the front door or key for the front door or doors, right? And then we also have, this is like a patio area in the rear. And this is one of two blue doors. We do not see the glass broken, right? There was no busting of the glass to unlock that door. And that doesn't mean you can unlock it anyway because this appears to be a deadbolt and this appears to be a key lock. It appears, okay? But the idea is there was no force to get into the rear door that's off this patio. And then the other door that allegedly leads to the garage, I tried to do my best to find because it's very hard for people to take pictures from a distance, but this is the best I could get. Allegedly, this door leads to Nancy Guthrie's garage. And again, we do not see any of the glass broken. So I go back again. These doors are glass. You could bust all of this glass out and climb in, as well as this other door. But that's not what happens. Or leaving the garage. This was another possible exit or entry. But we know that may not be what happened. Because of the blood droplets, it appears that Nancy Guthrie didn't leave out of the garage like she typically would. The rear door leading to the patio or the side door leading in and out of the garage were not used. It does not appear. Someone took Miss Nancy Guthrie out of her front door because there are the blood droplets there that were not there. So where was the key? Who found the key? Who had the key or keys to the front door or doors, right? That's where my mind leads me when I'm thinking just very meticulously about all of this information. I'm processing all of it. Who had access? Who would have keys? Who found the key? Who obtained the key? Where was the key to the front door? Why not exit out of the garage door or the rear door? Either that front door or doors were unlocked or the key or keys had to be found. And we all know that someone that is of Miss Guthrie's age and health probably would not leave any doors unlocked, okay? And this goes back to what I've said in my last video, going back to the means. Who had the means? Who had the opportunity? And what is the motive? What is the motive for this disappearance? We're going to get into it. My thoughts about it. Okay? Because really, if this was a burglary, which I don't think it was, this got escalated to a kidnapping, a home invasion in the late hours And no burglar wants this. No robber wants these type of criminal charges. They want to get in and they want to get out. They're not taking an elderly person out of their home because really it is a burden to care, to provide. Really, you make yourself vulnerable if that person sees you, if they hear your voice, if they have to go to your home or wherever you're taking them to hide them out. You're making yourself at risk by taking someone elderly and having to maintain their health, their care, to show that proof of life. No burglar wants to do that. They want to get in and they really want to get out. Okay, let's continue on. To me, and I believe to most people, Nancy Guthrie was not a threat to anyone. She wasn't a threat. She had some health issues, some mobility issues, of course, her age, but she was not a threat. So, again, what is the motive for her disappearance? What is the motive? When I think about crime, I always have to look at this in like a holistic way. When things are not making sense to me, I have to make it make sense. I have to balance these skills. And it keeps leading me back to the amount of time spent in the home. No proof of life to this day, up until this day. And today has been more than 2 weeks with no proof of life. The alleged abductors, kidnappers, they did not reach out to the Guthrie family. I believe what we've been hearing about in the media with these ransom requests, I believe that they are hoaxes, they are not legitimate, and none of them will ever be able to provide a proof of life because they don't have Nancy Guthrie. They don't. And I'm sure law enforcement recommended to the family not to pay a ransom without proof of life because it could be a scam. Okay. So I have to start focusing my attention on money. A lot of times, money is truly the root of evil. And in this case, maybe there was some circumstances that the the media is not able to release or law enforcement is not going to release to the public in their investigation. But my mind is gotta take it here now because a lot of times things are unfortunately happening because of finances, and you have to start looking at all the options. I'll just go off on a little tangent really quickly. When I heard that law enforcement said that the Guthrie family were no longer suspects, I just don't think that's the right thing. I don't think you eliminate anyone until you have a suspect in custody with charges. No one can be eliminated because you don't have anyone in custody. You don't have a suspect in custody. But going back to my prior thought, I have to start looking at other avenues, and the financial avenue is kind of raising antennas for me because I know sometimes, that things happen due to hardship, struggle. poor choices, debt problems, poor money management, whatever. And I have to start looking at this angle because um, sometimes when you have people close to you and they know, your finances, um, they can become, you know, aggressive about having you help them. Was Nancy Guthrie um, loaning money out? Did people owe her money? Did people refuse to pay her back? Was she no longer willing to help them financially? Has she met her limit with certain people? That she wasn't going to help anymore. Maybe they refused to pay her back. Some people are in serious debt or they don't manage money well. And maybe this could be something financial with someone that's relatively close to her. I think that there has to be some serious effort looking forensically at Nancy Guthrie's finances. They're going to have to investigate her activity financially, you know, looking at her banking history, her withdrawals, her credit card history. Was she making large purchases? Was she loaning out credit to people? Was she giving people loans? They need to look at her account transactions, is what I'm getting to. Um, I think something that could kind of um, help in this case is crime statistics. Um, what kind of crimes were happening in this area in Pima County? What was going on with the burglaries? Were people having a lot of break-ins? Were there any reported home invasions? Were there any reported kidnappings? And again, like I said, you're virtually not going to hear about someone elderly being kidnapped. It's just really rare. But were there kidnappings happening? Were there homes broken into, properties being burglarized, people being robbed in this area? I think that's important. And if so, were people caught? Were people arrested? Were people prosecuted? Could it be the same people that did uh, crimes in this area, maybe committing this crime? Do we have something that we can compare? Were there any patterns, maybe in the last 6 months going back to a year? That's something that law enforcement, they really, really need to look at. Um, is there any connections? Now, I want to think about I want to think about something that was throwing me off a little bit. As I told you, I don't think this was a kidnapping. I don't think the perpetrators intended this to be looked at as a kidnapping. Um, Something that Nancy brother said really, really got my attention, and I want to share. I want to share that with you now. So now this appears to be a prepared statement by Nancy's son. Um, and the reason I believe that is because it appears that his eyes are kind of looking away, looking down, and reading something. But I want you to hear what he says, and this will support my idea that this was not a kidnapping for ransom. I believe from what has taken place, the family has actually asked for the perpetrators to reach out to them because I think whoever the perpetrators are never intended for this to be a kidnapping. So they didn't have a ransom, and the ransoms that were coming up were all um, fraudulent scams. Okay. But let's listen to what he said in his video message. Okay, so you can see his eyes moving downward. He's asking for a proof of life. Contact us, let us know the condition of our mom. But he also said that you have not contacted us. I believe that this statement was made and they were 5 days in. The reason why I feel so strongly that this was not a kidnap for ransom is because typically the ransom is made known. The family doesn't have to make a statement asking for negotiations. The ransom will be made clear. There will be terms. There could be something as simple as make a statement and wear this color, wear this hat, sit in this position, make this phrase to indicate that you're going to pay. It can be subtle in ways. So I don't think there was ever a kidnap for ransom. Let's listen to it one more time. You hear that? We have not heard anything directly. So that means that no requests have been made to the Guthrie family to negotiate, to set a ransom, to make plans to pay the ransom. Because guess what, everybody? This is not a kidnapping. This is not a kidnapping for ransom. I'm just telling you, it's not. It does not make any sense. You're 5 days in with no contact with the family requesting any type of ransom payment. This is not a ransom. It's not. I want to focus on something else because my wheels get to moving, and I was thinking about the time that the perpetrator or perpetrators had in the property. You know, my question would be, with this amount of time from at least when the camera was taken down, I believe it was about 1:47 a.m., and then up leading to the time where the pacemaker disconnected from the Bluetooth. I believe that was about 2:28 a.m., something like that. I want to know what was the abductor or abductors doing in Nancy Guthrie's home. Now, you give me your thoughts and your ideas, but I had brainstormed a little bit, and I was thinking and throwing out a couple of things. So one thing I thought about is if there was a struggle, a battle, a fight, altercation, maybe they were cleaning up this crime scene. Maybe they were straightening up, cleaning up, wiping up, trying to destroy evidence, things of that nature. Another thing I thought about was maybe things unfolded that wasn't supposed to happen. And now they're trying to figure out, okay, what do we do now? What do we do next? I also thought coupling that with maybe they were waiting. They were waiting for instructions on what to do next. Maybe they didn't know what to do, so they had to wait. or get advice. This has happened. What do I do now? Something like that. Also, I was thinking, maybe they were searching for the things um, that they thought were in the house, the jewelry, the furs, money, a safe, items, things like that. And then the last thing I thought of, and this is, it's hard to think about, um, but we know that Nancy Guthrie was injured. I was thinking that maybe there was some intimidation, maybe some force, or even possibly torture to force Nancy Guthrie to do something. Like I thought about the backpack, like what's contained in the backpack? Could it be like, some rope, some tape, some duct tape, I don't know, something to put over the eyes, and then I start thinking, well, was there anything electronically, like maybe a computer, to transfer money? Was there time taken to try to withdraw money from Miss Guthrie's accounts? I was just thinking about it all, and tell me what you think the people or person was doing in the house over that period of time, because I was thinking of things, and I had made a list, so I'd be interested to know if you thought about that um, too, like I was thinking about it. Okay, let's keep going. Um, this goes with my questioning, if Nancy Guthrie had the exterior cameras, are they able to get footage from those other cameras? Are they able to try to recover footage from the other cameras? And also, did she have any interior cameras um, throughout the inside of the house? Um, there's two other things that I want to talk about. I've been thinking more and more, and let me show that picture. I have a picture of the garage. So let me get that really quickly. So, my apologies, right here. Um, we know that when Nancy Guthrie was dropped off after attending the dinner at her daughter's house, she entered the house allegedly through the garage. And my question is, how did the garage door open? Now, this is very interesting to me because I want to know, did Nancy Guthrie carry her own garage remote, or did her children have a remote, or was there a passcode, like a key passcode for her to get into the garage? I would like to know, when she was dropped off, who opened the garage door? Again, was it through a garage door opener? And if so, who had the opener? Was Nancy carrying the opener with her? Excuse me, Miss Guthrie carrying the opener with a garage opener with her, or was the person dropping her off also having a secondary garage opener and opening the garage? Because to me, that leads me to wonder, um, who had access to the property? Who had keys to the property? Because this is a means for the person to enter and exit without, again, we don't see any windows, we don't see any force. We haven't been told about any force to get inside the property. And a way also to get inside this property is through the garage door, besides the other three doors that we know of. Okay. So I was thinking about that. Let me know what you think, okay? And then the last thing I want to cover, you know, the police, they can lie to us. They can not tell us everything. They're not going to ever tell us everything. Law enforcement needs to, keep things under wraps, protected. But also, they can lie to us. Now, I'm not saying that they have or they did, but I do want to put something out there that sometimes we're told information to to create a narrative. Sometimes I believe law enforcement may deliberately try to misdirect us when we're following the case. And this is due to them wanting a certain idea out there because this will make the suspects vulnerable. This may also make the suspects feel like now they can kind of drop their guard, they can kind of relax, and maybe they'll make a mistake. It does happen. It has happened before. So we need to continue to follow the facts of the case, okay? The information that's out there, and we need to be, you know, paying attention to everything that's said and done, and also making inferences on things that are not said and done, right? So I want to wrap this up by, okay, I'm telling you my thoughts and you can share your thoughts. But I also would like to know, what is the family thinking? What do they feel happened? Do they believe this is like a kidnapping slash robbery? I have laid the case that I don't think this was ever a kidnapping or a robbery. I don't see any force. Um, I unfortunately believe that on the night until the early morning hours of February 1st, Nancy Guthrie received some injuries, and I believe she succumbed to those injuries. And that's why we don't have a proof of life. That's where there hasn't been a real ransom request, because I believe that someone that is very close to her with proximity did this. Yeah. I don't think they intended to do it, but they definitely did this. And it hasn't it hasn't really been looked into in this manner, but I have to go back to who had the motive. What is the motive? We still don't know. And this is why I want to look at the finances, maybe even the finances of the closest people to her. What are their financial circumstances? What is their financial health? How are they financially doing? Are they struggling? Are they in debt? Did they owe Nancy Guthrie money? Things can come to a head. What if I want to stop helping you? What if I'm saying no now? What if I'm demanding my money back and I'm unwilling to continue to do the things that I was doing? Some people don't like that. Some people get upset about that. So you got to think about it all. You got to consider it all because you don't have a motive. But money, that's typically a big motive. Okay. And then who had the means? We have to look at who was in her life, who was close to her, who was actively around her, who she was communicating with, who she was spending time with, who had access to her home. Um, who would do this? Who would try to break into that compound? They didn't break in. She may have let them in, or they may have had a key to get in, or knew the goings on, the routine, and knew where the key was. Had a garage opener, etc., to get into the property. We don't know. And then who had the opportunity? Who is there in Arizona? Who's close enough? Who would know Nancy Guthrie's habits? her daily routine, the time she went to sleep, the time she got up, who would know that she lived alone, who would know she didn't have a dog, she didn't have an alarm, she didn't have a working camera system, who would know all of these very intimate things and also have the means and the motive to do it. Do I think they intended to do it? No. No. But it happened. And they're not going down for it. They're not admitting to it. They're going to have to be caught because people don't want to go to jail. People don't want to be held responsible. They're not going down for it. It's going to have to be proven. That's how it is. It's a cold world, people. It's a cold world out there. So these are just more of my thoughts on the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. Please let me know what you think. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I want to thank you for spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. I want you to stay safe, stay smart, stay savvy. Be well, all my friends. Bye, everybody.